right, let's stay in the SEC and go to number 3 in our consensus with the first pick list. Summer scouting edge rushers. Tyreak Sapp out of Florida, home of Rand Carthon. And he's old. He's 22. He'll be 23 in a couple months, and that's not old. And he's also light.
I used to be
He's
real
6'2".
young.
I know. Tell me about it, man. He's light for this conversation. He's unofficially 6'2", 272. Again, that's enormous historically for edge rushers. And also, not surprisingly, they line him up everywhere. He'll kick inside in pass rush situations.
Correct.
I like to mention this when I see this. He's a 2-time SEC academic honor rollee, so shout out to him for that part of it. 8 sacks last year. He is an absolute plus run defender because of the power, the leverage, the low base, and he plays that way consistently. So that's one less thing you have to worry about. He can play the run because you and I talked about Donovan Mazaraku earlier. He was 238, 245 at BC. The run was a concern first half of the season. I thought he got better in the second half last year, but that's not going to be an issue when we talk about Sapp. Again, plays with heavy hands, and every one of these guys at 275 plus feels like they play with heavy hands. Get off blocks because they're so strong. Gets into gaps and can be disruptive in the run game. What did you see about Tyreak Sapp that perhaps you liked, and maybe some things that you didn't like? Because I'm not sure where he ranked on your list, because Keldrick Falk and TJ Woods, who we'll talk about, are 1 and 1A, it sounds like.
Yeah, he would have probably been like number 4 or 5 on my list.
Okay.
Versatility, like you talked about, they reduced him sometimes and put him at 3 technique. You saw on that bare front, and when I say bare front, 2 outside linebackers, you have 2 D tackles over the guard, and then you have a head up, nose tackle over the center. Plays with really good length, has long arms. You talked about it, Rye. Really good in the run game, plays with good extension. But I like his swipe move. He actually can get on the edge and burn the edge a little bit. Again, foot speed isn't quite there. He's a bigger edge guy at like 270, 272, but also has the versatility. And just like LT Overton, right, drops in zone coverage. Florida will drop him in zone coverage, even though he's 270 plus. So a really solid player. I don't like have him as high as some of these other guys that we're going to talk about on this list, but a solid player nonetheless.
Yeah, and the other thing about some of these guys we're talking about, at least the ones we've talked about thus far, is that they don't have an array of pass rush moves, because you know this. When you're the biggest guy growing up, you can just run over people. And if you watch that Miami game from 2024, Tyreek had his hands full with Francis Mauigoa, I got to get that right, the pronunciation. The right tackle out of Miami, who we talked about in summer scouting earlier, and he has a chance to be a high first-round pick as well. So you want to see those good-on-good matchups, and you also want to see over the course of the summer how much better can these bull rush experts, if you will, get better at using their hands and developing their pass rush moves, because that can be the difference between being a third-round pick and being a top 32 guy. How hard is it to develop those pass rush moves if you're used to just bullying everybody in the place?
And I'm so glad you brought that up, Ryan, because I think what's not talked about enough is the development throughout the offseason. Like, since the tape that we just watched came last season, you had a full spring workout. You had spring practice to really hone in on your skills and work on that. Then you have summer workouts where, again, you're working on your craft that entire time. And it's a lot different, like when I was in college. And again, I won't say when I was in college, like I was in college 30 years ago, but it's still a lot different.
I was.
A lot of these young guys, they actually go to like pass rush specialists in the offseason. Like, I see guys with BT Jordan who works for the Denver Broncos and also has his own personal thing. Like, college guys going to train with him when they have time off. I mean, that's what the NIL will do to you. You can buy you a plane ticket and go travel to a pass rush specialist in the offseason and really hone in on your craft, where when I played, like, there were rules where you could only be with the coaches so often. So a lot of times it was just you and the guys out there working on your craft, right? You weren't really going to different coaches. Now, maybe spring break you went if you had a couple days to work with a coach or something like that. But these guys throughout the whole offseason, they can work with pass rush specialists to really hone in on their craft. So that's what I always like to see. Like, the jump from what we saw in the summer to that next season. Did you hone in on your craft? Perfect example. A guy that we talked about, a guy that I really love, Jermaine Johnson. The growth that I saw from him from Georgia to Florida State, but then from Florida State and the draft process to the Senior Bowl, like, that was a major jump. And you could tell that he really honed in on his craft. And you like to see that players they care about their craft. Like, it's important to them. And I know that really resonated with teams, more specifically for the Jets, because I know for a fact they were trying to trade up as high as 15 to go get him in the draft. He ends up falling to him, I believe, at pick 22 or 26, something like that. But I know they tried to trade up even higher to get him because of what they saw in the process that he took throughout the draft.
Yeah, funny story. A couple funny stories. Rick Spielman has known Jermaine since high school because his son played with Jermaine in Minnesota, and he was over
Yep.
at Rick's house kicking it back in the day. So he's known Jermaine forever. And I remember talking to Jermaine at the combine, and he felt like he had to prove that the ACC was a legit place to play because he had transferred from the SEC, Georgia, I believe. I'm like, man, you dominated
Hmm.
everyone. I don't think it mattered what conference you were playing in. The other thing is, I'm glad you mentioned my guy BT Jordan. I've known BT since 2019 when he was Brandon. Like he's so big now. He's got initials for first name. In 2022 when he was at Michigan State, I went out there in March and he had 100 guys. Including Ndamukong Suh, who you mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
working out with him, and it's grown. He might have 300 guys now in terms of the people that he works with. He had made stops, as you mentioned, in Denver, made stops in Seattle, and that's an example of someone who kept their head down and did their job and is developing these guys, and the
Hmm.
results are there.
And to your point, right? He has a pass rush summit every year. And this year, I believe it was at Arizona State, and he had over like 60 NFL guys, right? Just
Yep.
showing you, like, if you put your head down and work consistently, good players will come to you because they want to hone in and work on their craft. And like I said, it's not just pro players now. It's the high school and college level with these NIL deals. Like guys can afford to be able to travel and get the training necessary to really elevate their game to get ready for the season coming up.